What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I am your host, Frankie D'Astoli. It has been a little while. There's no doubt about it, guys. We haven't recorded an episode in the past roughly 2.5 months. It's been, I think the last episode that I recorded was the Saints that saved my refinances, which I know was a really awesome episode. I appreciate everybody that gave me some feedback on that. In truth, it's just been really busy. I've been super busy these past 2.5 months. I haven't had the chance to record. I haven't been very active on social media. It's been pretty much a quarter of working in the business of D&D Equities. And although that is necessary at times, it also gets a little bit draining. And I had a good reflective moment a couple of weeks ago. And I kind of just said, like, you know what? I'm not doing the stuff that really lights me up right now. What are the things that light me up? And this podcast is absolutely one of them. So we wanted to make our trip back here, and I'm super excited to be back. I'm very appreciative of everybody that listens to the show. I've missed you guys. There's no doubt about it. And honestly, I was really, really surprised in a very pleasant way to look at the analytics of the Frankie D'Astoli Show over these past 2.5 months and to see that there was still a huge uptick in downloads, which gives me a lot of confidence, I guess is a word I could use, but just gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that, you know, the stuff that I'm putting out there is received really well, and it's even received while I'm not consistently putting it out and people are still listening. So it means a lot to me. I'm sorry for the gap in time. I'm really going to try to make this quarter a quarter that focuses on the Frankie D'Astoli Show so much that I've created a new Instagram account strictly for the Frankie D'Astoli Show. You can go and follow it. It's literally called the Frankie D'Astoli Show. And it's brand new. So if you're looking at it, you know, when this episode drops, there might only be 1 or 2 clips, if any, at that point. But it's going to be a page that's just strictly dedicated to the show where I'm going to be posting clips on there. But like I said, this is something that lights me up. And although this past quarter has really been me working in the business, it's also been just so fun and busy with family, and it's some really good family time that I was really looking forward to have. So I'm going to be breaking it down. I'm going to be breaking down just kind of where I've been over these past 2.5 months on a personal level, on a business level. We're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly with D&D Equities. And then we're also going to be talking about some other stuff too, like Rosary and Real Estate. We're going to be talking about Distoli's Dojo, how that's being revamped up as well. So we got a lot of great stuff in store. And like I said, I'm very happy to be back behind the mic. This mic has not left my desk in my office. I have it kind of on like I think this is called like a boom arm here. I'm not, a pro podcaster or anything like that, so I could be botching that. But it's been attached to the side of my desk ever since. And every time my daughter Bernadette is in my office, who's at this point 19 months, which is crazy, going on 20 months. Every time she's in this office, she's like, "Daddy, like I need to get on the mic," and she sits on my chair and she just sings in the mic. And she's got her own little song. It goes like this. It's like Kia. And me and Christina, we sing it all the time with her. So, and we all dance to it. So, it hasn't left. It's in my blood. I love, the podcasting situation that we got here. I love being on social media and all of that. And I really, like I was saying, I think just being reflective, it's those things that I really enjoy that I haven't had recently. And I felt it draining. And there's a really good book that I'm reading right now. It's called Buy Back Your Time. If you are following me on social media, I did put up a poll on if I should read that or The E-Myth, and a whopping, 80 to 20% said buy back your time. And it's a great book. I'm really enjoying it. And one thing that he really talks about is just like, what do you excel at? What lights you up, and how do you add value to your business, right? And that was, I think, actually a question to ask more for the employees that you have as well, because you want to make sure you're putting, the right people in the right seats. But I was reflective on that too. And, we'll talk about D&D a lot on this podcast. But what I realized over this past quarter is I've been working very in the business. And if you listen again to that Saints that saved the refinance, that was at the end of April. Those refinances went through. It's a really great story. I talked about, my prayer routine leading up to those, the 9-day novenas that I did, and how we hit that refi. And if you did listen to that episode, I think I ended it with saying that I was bringing my bro Steven to my partner Steven to church, and he ended up coming to church with me. We went to adoration hour. It was awesome. And even after he walked out and he said like he felt different. And I've seen a little bit of some sprouts of him being a little bit more, in tune with God and praying a little bit more. I wouldn't say he's doing legitimate prayer consistently, but I know that he's offered a few things up. And then after that, we went out and we went to Capitol Grill and we talked about kind of our yearly plans. But after that, and that was a real like pinnacle moment of like we hit this, awesome peak. We had these refis go through. It was really, really great. I kind of thought that I would be working more so on the business in Q2 rather than in it. And it kind of just didn't happen that way. I feel like after that, I was so in the business. And by reading this book, Buy Back Your Time, I kind of looked and did a time and energy audit on what I was doing. And I realized that, we brought on some really great people within D&D. We brought on Eddie, who was my second ever student at Distoli's Dojo. Now he's my full-time acquisitions manager at D&D Equities. And shout out to Eddie. He left his W-2 job on June 12th. And he's full-time now in D&D, and he's absolutely killing it. He closed already in July. He closed 3 deals with us. Or actually, I shouldn't say that. He closed 2 so far. One was an acquisition that we put in our portfolio. One was a wholesale deal, and he's got one more wholesale deal that's set up to close, God willing, by July 17th. But he's doing a really, really great job. And he came on and he's running a lot of my acquisitions now. And I just kind of lead him and direct him, which is a lot of stuff that I did at my old job too. I was a regional sales manager, so I was directing a lot of these reps. And then we also have Kelly, who's a phenomenal addition to the team. She's our director of property management, and she, runs the showings, talks with the tenants, gets them to submit applications. Her and I convene on who we're going to put in. And obviously, as it was before, Steve runs all the project management. He's on the job sites, making sure they're going smoothly. And although this is great and it's actually bought back a lot of my time, I've realized that I've been filling a lot of that time with a lot of like clerical nonsense, and being so in emails and the refis and, all this other stuff, paperwork. I'm getting tons of mail that I'm opening nonstop, just bills, all these things that I'm like, man, I'm not doing the stuff that I really enjoyed. And it's because I brought people in to do that stuff and it's great, but I need to make sure that I'm filling my time with that. And the things that I really enjoy when I think about that is I love to lead. Right. I love to lead teams. So I do get that still. I get that when I work directly with Eddie, when I work directly with Kelly, even Steve and I, we lead on a bunch of projects together. And I love acquisitions. There's nothing I love more than getting a property under contract and closing that deal. That's if you look at the entire process, of course, the refinances are fantastic when we get paid, getting tenants in there and getting the first month's and security deposit. That's all great. All of that stuff is really awesome. But I come from the wholesale background and my roots are getting in front of sellers and getting properties under contract. And, looking back at that type of stuff, that's stuff that I really enjoyed. Also other things I love to read. And, at this point I've read, I think it's 12 books so far this year. And that's great. I have a goal of 30. I've fallen behind a little bit, but there's been pockets where I just been so busy. I haven't had time to read. And I think lastly, what I wanted to say in regards to the stuff that I enjoy is the social media stuff too. And the podcasting, this stuff lights me up. This is the stuff that I enjoy doing. And just again, looking back on it, I just haven't been able to fully, do this stuff because I've just been so in the, minutia of the business. So I had a reflection moment. And I think I was actually very fatigued too. And even more so than fatigued, I think I was burnt out. And Jocko Willink, a guy that I like to listen to a lot, he's really great podcast, great books. He talked about the difference between fatigue and being burnt out. Fatigue is when you go to bed and you're like, man, I'm exhausted. This was a hard day. But you push through and you wake up the next day and you're able to keep it going. And burnt out is when you go to bed and you're exhausted and you wake up the next day and you're just still exhausted and not there. And I think there was a little bit of period of time, probably in the beginning of June, where I just was I'm not mentally here. And even in my family life too, I felt like I was just a little, not necessarily distant, but I was there, I was present, but I wasn't physically or mentally present, if that makes sense. I'm sure some of you guys have probably experienced that too. And that's when I realized I was feeling pretty burnt out. And thankfully, my cousin Joey, who's getting married on July 13th, this Sunday, I'm very happy for him. He had his bachelor party in Scottsdale. Now, everybody relax. There's nothing crazy going on over there. But it was a great time to kind of get away. We played some golf. We went to a couple cigar bars. We had a really good time. And it was just, a few days of just being turned off. And when I first got there, on the whole entire plane ride down, the 5-hour plane ride down, I was doing work. Like I was cleaning up our books. I was putting together our offsite meeting agenda. I was, answering emails. I was doing all that stuff. I was still in work mode. Even when we got down there the first day, Thursday, I was basically answering phone calls, answering emails, doing all that stuff. And then Friday, I started to let go of the vine a little bit. And Saturday and Sunday while we were there, it was 4-day trips, a long trip. I didn't do anything in regards to work. And I think as hard as that was to do, it was absolutely what I needed. And when I came back significantly more refreshed, significantly more focused, more in tune, and just assessed what was going on. And it was a lot easier to do. So sometimes when you're in that moment and you're feeling burnt out, I think sometimes the jerk reaction is like, I need to work harder to get out of this. And for me, it was just to let go. And also that's, a big thing that I talk about in regards to being a faithful person, right? And every time I'm feeling struggles within work, I try to look at it as an opportunity of how could I grow in a connection with God? How could I grow deeper with God? What is he trying to teach me in these moments? Is he trying to teach me patience? Is he trying to teach me perseverance? Is he trying to teach me how to only rely on him and not on myself? And those are all things as a Catholic, as a Christian, that you have the ability to tap into and to strengthen your relationship with God in these types of moments, right? And in joyful moments and pleasant moments and in some not so pleasant moments. And not that it was not pleasant. It was just, work was definitely creeping up a little bit. And then when I got back, we went on a little Cape May trip, my family and I, my wife, my daughter, and my son. We do that. We've been doing that pretty much every year for the most part these past couple of years since we got married in 2022. And I love it. It was awesome. We stayed at the Inn in Cape May, and the Inn was great. They also gave me a room to do D&D's Q2 offsite, which was really awesome. I pulled the D&D Q2 offsite from a book called Traction. If you guys haven't read that, if you are running a business or have, aspirations to run a business, the Traction book has absolutely changed the way I structure D&D and really any of the stuff that I run. It's really awesome. And we did an offsite where the whole team went out to Cape May. We broke down the good, the bad, the ugly of D&D Equities, which we're going to get into right now. And it was really great. It was great team camaraderie. And I think overall for Q3, it started off a little bit rocky. This week has definitely been some challenges. But at the end of the day, like my father-in-law said to me, when you're running a business, you have to have war stories. It's good to have war stories, right? When you look at like our country, it's built on some really amazing values and attributes. And you look back at, the way that this country came about and the war stories in regards to that, the war stories in regards to the World War. And all of those are, although they were crazy times and they were hard times, and while you're in them, you want out, there's no doubt about it, but they all build the foundation of what type of country it is. And that's the same with your business, right? If you go into business and you just are automatically successful, that's great. It's good that you have achieved that success, but you have nothing to fall back on when times get tough. So now every time times get tough, we're able to look back and be like, do you remember when we had that problem? Do you remember when we had that problem? Do you remember when that was going wrong? Do you remember when this tenant wasn't paying, or this contractor flipped out, or this renovation budget got out of control? We have these stories to fall back on that strengthen us. And I think that's really important as a business owner. And it's just good, you have some scars and it reminds you of where you came from. So in regards to D&D, we're going to start there, and then I'm going to get into some personal stuff. The good, the bad, the ugly. So D&D, after those refinances in April, coming into May, we had our first true eviction, which I'm going to be getting into in a separate episode. But I had to take this tenant to court, took her to city court. We won in city court. She ended up appealing it. I've definitely talked about this tenant before. And I ended up having to take her to county court. We ended up winning in county court. The judge gave her 30 days to move out. And in those 30 days, it was up. I believe it was May 1st. She was set to move out, and my partner Steve and I literally were at the house moving her out. We were moving out our evicted tenant, and long and behold, she didn't take all of her cats, and her cats were still in the house. So that's definitely a separate conversation that I'll have a story about that. But it was great. We ended up doing a really good job on that house. We got that house renovated. We got a tenant in there. We're set to refinance it. And in May, we had a handful of acquisitions. I want to say we had either 3 or 4 buys in May. We didn't have any refis. We initiated 2 refis in May. And then in June, we also initiated 2 other refis as well. We didn't have any acquisitions in June. But in this time from May to June, I think we've wrapped up about 4 to 5 renovations. And we've initiated about 4 we've initiated 4 refinances. And let me tell you something, guys. The bad is these refinances are the cross that I bear. They are the cross that I bear. If you listen to Saints That Saved, that episode, I talked a lot about these refis and the credit situation and everything that's going on there. And it hasn't gotten much better. Long story short, basically the credit situation, I'm still working on getting that up. And this is, a little bit of a vulnerability thing. But when we had those 3 really hard months last year, October, November, December, as I mentioned, you can go back and listen to all of this stuff. That was really tough. Steve and I were literally beat broke. And we had to run up a lot of cards. And at that time, we were also trying to get a lot of lending for these refinances. So we had a lot of inquiries. Long story short, credit, it's really like a bloop in time, depending on where you are. And for someone who owns 28 properties at this point and has a ton of, rental income coming in and a lot of refinance, tax-free income coming in and all of that stuff, my credit still doesn't reflect it. So I hired somebody that's trying to get all these inquiries off. These inquiries are pulling my score down like 70 points. It's pretty insane. But long story short, that's still the cross that I bear, trying to get the credit restored so that I could refinance these deals faster with Steve. But I have a really great lender, my boy Varaz, who's doing a really good job. And we are looking at getting these refinances done this month. So we got 4 refis that are supposed to go through. But that's the bad, a little bit of the ugly there too. But all in all, in regards to D&D, again, like I said, it was a quarter of working in the business. We did a really, really good job with property management, tightening things up. I think we onboarded anywhere between 5 to 7 new tenants in Q2, which is really awesome. That puts us at, I believe, 19 tenants now. And we have 8 other units that are going to be coming up probably within the next 3 months that need to be occupied, if not more. And we do also have a couple of flips. Steve and I are doing our first flip together. My partner, Steve, he's done some flips in the past. This is totally my first flip. Everything that I've done so far has been rentals and house hacking and wholesaling. So I'm excited about this. We're praying, God willing, that the flip hits the market by the end of July. We hit a few bumps in the road in regards to the renovation, in regards to the contracting. But overall, it's moving along really nice. It's coming out beautiful. It's definitely going to be the nicest house in that neighborhood. There's no doubt about it. So we're going to see if we could set the market a little bit, which I don't really love to do, but we are playing with a decent amount of profit there. So even if we can't get it and it does end up getting, below our asking on that, we still have some really great room there, which I'm excited about. But I'm really excited for that flip. We bought another deal too, which is going to be the first time we're doing something like this. We were really going to do like a wholesale situation where you buy it and you pretty much just relist it. And we are still debating on doing that. But when we did kind of our walkthrough the other day on it, we feel like we could still get away with putting like $15,000 to $20,000 into it and maximizing our profit a little bit more. So we are going to try to flip a little bit more. We have been wholesaling a little bit more. We're still buying up a bunch of rentals. But what I've realized is I want to inject a little bit more cash flow into the business. And Q3, our real 3 pillars that we're focusing on as a team is cash flow, injecting cash flow into the business, keeping that running, building out the reserves account a little bit more, and then focusing on the management in each department, the acquisitions management, the project management, and the property management. Those are really the big focuses for Q3. Because what I want everybody to understand is this. Yes, we have 27 houses or whatever, but somewhere around those lines. We have a lot of income coming in from rental income too, but we also have a lot of holding costs on these mortgages. So everybody thinks like, oh, you got 19 tenants, like you have a lot of money coming in. And this is very true. However, because we have 19 tenants, that's great. They're covering the mortgage and then some. That's where we get our cash flow. But we also have, 8-ish, 9-ish, whatever it is, units that are unoccupied that we have holding costs for every single month. So we have to pay those holding costs. So yeah, we're getting, roughly $30,000 a month in rental income, but we have mortgages of roughly, $27,000 a month in every single month that have to come out. That's a holding cost. So there's really not a ton of profit there for right now. Now, if we stopped buying completely and we totally rented out those units, yeah, obviously that's where you see the big spike and you see that, net cash flow increase significantly, but that's not our plan, right? We want to continue to buy. By May of 2026, we want to be at 50 units. Eventually we want to get to 100 units. At least that's where the mindset is right now. So we're not looking at it from the perspective of we're going to be able to make a lot of money on our rental income. We're not there yet. Until we stop buying, that's when we'll get there. So the only way to really, continue to inject that cash flow is through things such as flips, wholesaling, wholesaling or, big cash out refinances where we could put some of that money back into that. But again, cash out refinances, that's how Steve and I get paid. That's why these refinances have been such a cross to bear for me, because not only are they difficult to get through, but that's how Steve and I get paid. So we're waiting to obviously get our paychecks when those refis go through. So all in all, that's kind of a background of where D&D's been and where it's headed to. On a personal level, I can't lie. I mean, it's been awesome. I've had a really great past 2.5 months. There's been so much positives to look at. Obviously, as I mentioned, my daughter's about to be 20 months now. Francis is 4 months. He turned 4 months on July 1st. And we had some really great stuff on a personal level there too, as well. Francis got baptized, which in my opinion, listen, as a parent, I talk a lot in regards to generational wealth. I want to pass down, my assets. I want to pass down my houses to these kids, and, give them a really, really great, life. Obviously, this is the bottom line, right? I want them to have anything that they want in regards to, materials of what they need and stuff like that. And my goal of building this portfolio with Steve is that we pass that down. That's really it. All right. It's for the next generation and the generations to come. As a parent, there is nothing more important. There's nothing better that you could give your kids than faith. And I mean that sincerely. All these houses accumulate to nothing if my kids don't have faith. And as a Catholic dad, as a Catholic parent, baptizing your child is the greatest thing that you could ever do. Because when you baptize your child, Jesus Christ puts his mark on your kid and puts a place in the kingdom of God for your child. Their place is marked. It's there for them. It's waiting for them. Now, as a parent, it is your job to raise your children in the faith so that they fulfill that seat and they get there. And literally, this is what I pray for the most. I pray that I bring my wife and my kids to heaven. That's it. So baptizing your kid is doing that. It's putting your child's place in heaven for them, right? And that's what you do as the parent. You make that decision to baptize your child. You bring them into the faith. You welcome them into the Catholic Church. And then Jesus puts his mark on him and claims them as his. He is the shepherd. Now your child has become one of the sheep that is in the flock, ready to be shepherded back home, right to heaven. And it was a beautiful day. My brother-in-law Andrew and my sister Tara are Francis's godparents. They got him a beautiful cross, which is really awesome. And then I was really blessed to also be asked. My wife Christina and I, we were asked to be my nephew Sebastian's godparents, which was the day before Francis. So it was a very faith-filled weekend. And we are really, really blessed to be his godparents. And it was a beautiful day getting Sebastian baptized, and his parents are doing exactly what needs to be done, opening up his place in heaven, marked by Christ. And I will say, as a godparent, it's not just a title, right? The godparent's role is really, really important. And if you are a godparent or you're thinking about who to make your godparents, it's very important to understand this. When you become the godparent, if the parents of the child are very faithful, they're rooted in their faith, and they are doing what they should be doing, which is bringing their child up in faith, you as the godparent don't necessarily have that big of a role, right? Your role might be, obviously, checking in with your godchild, making sure that they're doing everything that they need, understanding that, getting them to, understand the catechism a little bit more, or just, in reinforcing that faith is probably the best way to say it. The real role of a godparent is, if anything were to happen to the parents of the child, the godparent's role is to continue to raise that child in faith, so that if they lose their faithful parents, they do not lose the faith of Christ. And I hope that makes sense. And I want to really outline this. It's basically, the way that I look at this is like, it's like insurance, right? When I buy a house, I have home insurance on it just in case something happens to the house, right? Godparents, you are the insurance to that child. Because if they lose their parents and they lose the faith, they've lost everything. But if they lose their parents, it's your responsibility to make sure that they don't lose the faith. So if you are a parent and you're thinking about baptizing your kid, which I highly suggest that you do, and you are thinking, who do I want to bring on as the godparent? I want you guys to think about this, right? Don't do it just to post on Instagram. Oh, this is my boy. He's the godfather, right? And he, posts some line from the Godfather or something like that, right? That's not the purpose of this. It's really not. It's to bring the child up in faith if you weren't there. So who would you entrust to bring your child up in faith? Who would you entrust to make sure that your child gets to heaven? That's the question you need to ask yourself when you want to pick your godparents for your kid. And I'm very blessed. And listen, it's one thing to bring my child into the Catholic faith and to baptize them. I'm going to do that for every one of my kids. God willing, there's more to come. But it's another to be asked to be a godparent, knowing that those parents would entrust myself and my wife to take over that unbelievably crucial role, the most important role for their child. So I'm extremely honored to be Sebastian's godfather. My wife is extremely honored to be his godmother. And I'm just so happy that my son Francis is marked by Christ. And so it's been great from that perspective. And, coming back from that Scottsdale trip, like I mentioned a little bit before, I think I've been, that trip, I've missed my kids a lot. Like, there's no doubt about it. One day it's too much for me. It really is. So, of course I was excited to celebrate with my brother Joey and, get him excited for his wedding and all of that stuff. But, missing my kids, it's like, it was absolute torture not being home with my wife and my kids. And, coming back, I think I've been very reflective on just, the future and what it looks like. And my kids are getting older. Like I said, my daughter's 20 months. Like, she's singing, she's making up her own songs. Akia, it's going to be an absolute world banger for sure. But she's getting older. My son's already 4 months. The kid's a tank. He's an absolute unit. Everybody that sees him is like, this is the chunkiest kid I've ever seen. I don't think he's the chunkiest I've ever seen, but he's a chunky boy, which is great. And sometimes it's sad. It's sad seeing them grow up. It's happy and it's sad. It's happy to see them grow up. It's great to see them enter into new phases of life and to be able to be blessed to see them, to watch them grow. But it's also sad because you realize that they're not going to be this small forever. It just doesn't happen that way. And it also makes you sad to think about eventually they're going to be older. And there's times I go out and I see, parents with their teenage kids. And, my brother-in-law, who's my intern now, talk about the good within D&D Equities. He's interning for me, Christopher. He's actually the link between my wife and I. Used to teach him karate, which is really awesome. He's doing a phenomenal job. He designed the website, dndequities.com. If you go and look at that, that's all him. He's doing a great job. But, you see parents with their kids and they're growing up and they're doing all these things. And it makes you sad. And it reminds you that this isn't going to last forever. But as a man of faith, this is why it's so important to have faith, because what we understand is this world is not forever. There's life and there's death in this world. There's no getting away from death, right? No matter how much money you have. And I don't know what the next thing that's going to come out of, them saying they've come out with an immunity, an immortal pill or whatever it is. I don't know. But what I know is this: death is certain. All things come to an end. But in heaven, it doesn't. It's forever. And that's another reason why, as a parent, everything that I could possibly do to get my kids to heaven, to get my wife to heaven. That's what I'm called to do as a husband. That's the part of marriage. The part of marriage is to get each other to heaven. Marriage is not supposed to be all sunshine and rainbows. Most of the time, it's carrying a cross. And you carry that cross together with your spouse to the gates of heaven. And I'm in the business of getting my kids to heaven. I'm in the business of celebrating forever in heaven with my family. And I think that's something that not a lot of people think about. And maybe I'm being a little bit morbid with the situation there. But in my opinion, that's something that needs to be talked about more. This is a world of instant gratification. This is a world of self-gratification. How could I make myself feel good? We need to stop thinking about that. We need to stop thinking about how can we glorify God? How can we bring faith into our family? How can we bring our kids to heaven? And on that note, I'm going to move into some other stuff that we have going on. So Rosary and Real Estate absolutely popped off these past couple months, which has been awesome. We had 2 events. We had Rosary and Real Estate event number 3 and event number 4. Event number 3, I think, was middle of May, maybe somewhere around there. And then event number 4, actually, today's, as I'm recording this, July 9th, Rosary and Real Estate 04 was yesterday. And we had 2 really awesome events. And at Rosary and Real Estate, our third one, I think that was our best turnout. We had 18 people. I think it was 18 people, actually. And then yesterday, we had a great turnout, too. There's roughly 13 people. We got hit with some crazy weather. I didn't expect this to. I was in the tap room setting up and I'm just seeing storms. And then I got a bunch of texts from people saying they couldn't make it. And that's totally valid. I didn't want anybody to necessarily drive in that anyway. But we still had a great turnout. Some really great people showed up. And as the podcasting continues, I'm going to be breaking down a lot of the stuff that we talked about in Rosary and Real Estate. But if you are curious about what goes down at Rosary and Real Estate, The third meetup is on YouTube. So you can find it on YouTube. I will post that link in the show notes here. And then I am going to be posting out Rosary and Real Estate event number 4. So whether that's in this show notes or maybe the next episode, just depending on when I get it posted and when I launch this episode, that might be in the show notes too. But if not, you can find it on YouTube. And if you just search me, it's going to be under me as well. But we had some really great stuff there. We had some great turnout. We had some great conversations in regards to how to underwrite deals. And we talked a lot about, Mary's relationship to us and how Jesus gives her to us at the cross and how she intercedes for us. And again, if you want to listen to more of that stuff, I'm not going to go into it necessarily on this pod. You can listen to it in those meeting episodes. And they're roughly both about an hour each. So it's the full presentation that I give. And the way that I do it in Rosary and Real Estate is I break down real estate stuff first. We talk about real estate topics, whether that's underwriting deals, finding deals, things along those lines. And then I get into the faith portion of it. And I think what everybody comes for the most part, they come mostly for the real estate. But when they leave, I think they are happy that they were there for the faith. And the Rosary and Real Estate event number 3 and this last event yesterday, number 4, I did an optional rosary at the end of it. And that by far was the most pivoting thing for me. I love holding these events, again, talking about things that light you up, right? This is something that lights me up. Every time I leave after hosting a Rosary and Real Estate event, I feel significantly better. But being able to pray the rosary with the group of people that were there, it was by far one of the coolest and most rewarding things that I've done as a Catholic. There's no doubt about it. Being able to invoke Mary and Jesus into a room of people who are looking to grow in generational wealth and spiritual poverty, there's nothing better than it. So if you want to go listen to those episodes, or not necessarily episodes, but watch those videos, you can definitely do that. And then the last couple of things that I'll say is Distoli's Dojo for real estate investing. This is a course that I launched back in August of last year. I launched my first course. It was a wholesaling course. It did really well. It popped off. We had a bunch of students that signed up. A lot of those students ended up doing some really great deals, which I'm super excited about. As time went on and D&D got really busy, it tailed off a little bit in regards to my promotion from it. There were some things I liked about the course, some things that I wanted to change a little bit. I started opening up some mentorship programs, which honestly I think became the most fruitful. I had a handful of people that signed up for mentorship programs. And I think everybody that signed up for my mentorship program has done at least one deal. I'm trying to think back on everybody that's done it. If there hasn't been someone that has, and I'm pretty sure every single person that has signed up for my mentorship program has done at least one deal. And I have done a Dojo revamp. So the Dojo revamp is officially live. It's back up. The wholesaling course is back up. I've made some changes to it. I've adjusted some pricing on it as well. And there are a variety of mentorship programs that you could book a call for if you want to talk about how that kind of looks and how, my role as a mentor or coach for you, an accountability coach, could help you in your investing career. So if you want to go to Distoli's Dojo REI.com, you could go there. You could either sign up for the wholesaling course, or you could sign up for, or you could book a call, to talk about accountability coaching or some mentorship. And if you are listening to the Frankie D'Astoli Show, if you do buy the wholesaling course, put the code TFDS, the Frankie D'Astoli Show, TFDS10 for 10% off on the wholesaling course for the dojo. And one thing I will say about the wholesaling course, you might be looking at it and you might be like, well, I don't really want to wholesale. A majority of people, I wouldn't say a majority, but a good amount of people that have signed up for the course are not wholesalers per se, but they are maybe rentals or they're flip guys. They significantly have increased their portfolio and their, REI IQ because of the course. They've learned how to find deals. They've learned how to really analyze deals. They've learned how to negotiate deals. There's a whole section on just negotiation. There's a whole section on finding deals and how to do that. There's a whole section on comps and renovations and how to put together a reno scope of work, how to put together good comps so you know what your after repair value is. There's a ton of that stuff. So even if you're looking at it and you're like, I don't want to wholesale, you're going to get a ton of value out of that just in regards to any department that you're in real estate. But I am planning, I don't want to put a timeline on it because I'm not sure. I have a lot of other things going on, but I am planning on dropping additional courses within the dojo, specifically around the BRRRR strategy, since, I've really been doing that over these past 25 houses that I've purchased. And then also on house hacking. I think house hacking is one of the most important and attainable ways to get into real estate investing, especially for young investors looking to break in. So I do plan on making a couple more courses in the future. But for right now, the wholesaling course is newly priced. It's revamped. You could go there again, TFDS 10 for 10% off. Or if you're looking for some accountability coaching or mentorship, you could book a call with me and we could talk a little bit more about that. But guys, that's pretty much where I've been. So I appreciate everybody listening. Like I always say, pray the rosary, buy real estate. And I have so much in store. I've put together a whole breakout and plan of what we're going to be talking about on the Frankie D'Astoli Show. And I'm really excited to be sharing it all with you guys. So I thank you so much for listening. I thank you for the listeners that were still consistently listening when I had a little bit of a 2.5-month hiatus there and wasn't here. It really means a lot to me, and I'm super appreciative of it. So I hope you guys have a great day. My wife and my daughter and my son, we're all going to the farm today. My wife's aunt, she's got a little farm over there. So I'm really excited. Plan on putting my cowboy hat on that I got in San Antonio, Texas one time that I don't get to wear on too many occasions. So I'm going to get out of here, but appreciate you guys listening. Pray the rosary, buy real estate. Peace out.